Story Retold audience members. Okay, so we all know the story that is centered around greed and selflessness. One of my favorite versions of the story is from Mexico. It goes as such, and it's based on a book called A Spoon for Every Bite. So, once upon a time, there was a village. In this village, there was a very rich man, and his next-door neighbors were a young married couple. They had no wealth. In fact, they only had 2 spoons. One for the man, one for the woman. Now, this young poor couple, they have a baby. And the young woman decides, why don't we have the rich man next door be the beneficiary, be the godfather for this young child? The young man didn't think that the man next door, who was rich and had all this money, would agree to it, but he does. And so they go to the church and they get him baptized, and the rich neighbor is now this young child's godfather. Well, to thank the young old rich man, they decided to invite him over for dinner. However, once again, they only had 2 spoons, and this rich man probably had the nicest furniture, let alone the nicest spoons, so they start saving every single penny that they have for months on end until they can find one shiny, beautiful spoon for their neighbor. The young woman makes a beautiful soup, invites the rich neighbor over, and they sit down at a table, and she sits him down and says, "Sir, this is your spot. This is your shiny new spoon, which we just bought as of this morning." The rich man looks at it and starts laughing at them. Are you telling me that you only had 2 spoons prior to this? Well, I have so much land and money, I could have a different spoon for every single meal. Now, the young couple, of course, is embarrassed and ashamed of this. The young man especially. However, he is not the one that speaks up. The young woman does. And she says, "Sir, I don't mean to be rude, but we too have a very rich friend. This friend is so rich that he can actually use a different spoon for every bite. He will never use the same spoon for a different bite twice." Now, of course, this rich man is upset. His ego has taken over, and he immediately goes home, unable to sleep, unable to eat, unable to do anything, until the very next morning when he has breakfast, and he tells his servant that he will not use the same spoon twice. He will use 1 spoon, 1 bite, and throw the spoon away. Now, the servant, of course, is very confused as to what to do with all this, and he goes to the couple next door and says, "What have you done to my master? He cannot eat, sleep, drink, anything. He has ordered me to take all of these spoons, the spoons that he's only used for 1 bite, and deliver them to your door. And after every meal, I'm going to be doing this." And so the young couple smile. They realize what they have done. They do not gloat. They simply welcome. This is the man's ego talking, as we are saying. The old rich man decides he's going to buy all of the spoons in the village. Of course, he cannot take a bite and use the same spoon if he does not have enough spoons, and he was starting to run out of spoons. So the servant went to the village and bought all of the spoons until there were no more spoons, and then he went to villages all along the land, and he bought up all the spoons to the point where there was no spoon in the land that this rich man did not own. The pile of used spoons in the young man and woman's yard was growing. They had enough for a small fortune, surely, to the point where the rich man had bought so many spoons that he lost his fortune. He sold all of his land, he sold all of his cattle, he sold all of his furniture. He had nothing left but these spoons until he ran out of spoons, and he went to the next door neighbors and he said, "Now, there is no way that there is someone richer than me. I am the richest in the land, and I have spent my entire fortune, and I've run out of spoons." And the young woman speaks up without missing a beat yet again and says, "Now, sir, it is true. We do have a friend who uses a different spoon for every bite. If you like, we can introduce you." And so the old rich man decides to follow them to the middle of the village to this tiny little hut that is impoverished. No amount of eccentric finances had ever seen this area. They go inside the tiny hut, and there is a man next to a stack of tortillas. The rich man looks at him and goes, "Sir, I have been told by this young couple right here that you use a different spoon for every single bite." And he says, "Sir, I do not use a spoon. Watch me, and I will show you what I do." He takes a piece of the tortilla, uses it, takes a little bit of beans and rice, and pops it in his mouth. Surely he does not use the same spoon twice. Now the old man is very angered by this, and he does not know what to do. So he turns to the young woman and the young man, and he says, "Now, you promised me that there was a rich couple, rich man specifically, that could have a different spoon for every single bite. And now you have all of my spoons, this huge mountain of spoons. What are you going to do with it?" And the young man and woman said, "Oh, we will share the wealth." And they did. They took the profits from those spoons and they spread it around the entire village to the point where there was no rich man, no poor couple. Everybody was equal. And they all lived in harmony.